Okay. Before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the infinitely compassionate One, the Tathagata, by chanting the Namaskar all together and with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I want to start by asking a question. Can you read minds? Can you read minds? It's a very strange question because you can interpret it in various ways. But no matter which way you interpret it, the answer is no. Not really. Sometimes. No one can say, yes, I can read minds, unless you're the Supreme Buddha. Now, because we can't read minds, what do we do? What do we do? How does someone express themselves? Or express their minds? You have three ways. Well, body, they will do something. Speech, they will say something. But mind, we can't see. So body and speech are the two things that we are able to use to try to read someone's mind. But to what degree are we correct? Now they say the older you become, the better you are at doing this. When someone is happy, you know they're happy. When they're sad, you know they're sad. But as you grow up, you learn how to mask it as well. You learn how to mask emotions. So when you are sad, you pretend to be happy. So everyone around you believes that you're happy. When you're sad, when you're angry, you mask it and you pretend to be happy or you pretend it doesn't hurt. Masking your emotions. So again, to what degree can we read minds? You know, they say 99% of all problems, 99% of all problems can be solved with simple communication. With simple communication, just telling the other person, I think this, is enough to solve a problem. Because I think we as humans have, not just humans, but we as minds with lots of views, with lots of expectations, lots of hopes and dreams, we have a feeling that people can read me, or I want people to understand me. Now, that is because of ignorance. However, we have this strong belief that I want other people to understand me, to see where I'm coming from. That's why when you do something and someone questions it, you always have some sort of reason behind it. Oh, I did this because. I did that because. You have some sort of reasoning behind it because you want the other person to see where you're coming from. You want the other person to understand you. So sometimes we will do things and say things hoping that the other person can read beneath the lines. Now, it's very common when you're either with friends, with close relationships, mother, father, husband, wife, mother, son. Either way, you are hoping that the other person, you give subtle cues, subtle hints, on trying so they can try to find what you're feeling. Now, we do that for two reasons. One reason is because we don't want to blatantly say that, this is what I'm feeling. Number two is because we want to hide that. Sometimes when you're sad, sometimes when you're upset, you don't want the other person to know that, because you think, if I show that I'm upset, they'll think something of me. If I show that I am angry, they'll think something of me. And who's at play there? Who's at play? Ego. Communication is not, it's not, something that we've all practiced. It's not something we're born with. It's something that we have to train. The better you are at communicating what you want, the easier it is for you to enjoy life. Now, communication is most important when it comes to your teachers. That's when communication is essential. Because no matter how great your teacher is, no matter who your teacher is, no matter what sort of understanding they have of the Dhamma, whether they're just beginning or whether they're Arahants, no one can read a mind perfectly. That's why it's very easy. Actually, it's very easy to trick your teachers. All you have to say is, I didn't do it. Or I don't feel that. Or I didn't think in that way. And because your teachers trust you, to a certain extent, of course, they'll accept it. Because they can't go beyond your words. You say it, they're going to have to think so. They may try to pry it out of you. But if you're strong and resilient and, very, very shielded, but then all they can do is believe it. And that's one less help for you. See, when it comes to your teachers, communication is essential. You need to be able to communicate properly. You shouldn't hope that maybe they'll see me do it and then they'll come to me. Because if they see you and they come to you, that feels much lighter on yourself. It makes you feel, they saw me, that's why they're doing this. But you to go up to them and say that, I've been doing something like this, is hard. Because you're admitting to your mistakes and, your ego doesn't like that. Ego is always right. Ego is always right. That's why, if someone said, don't you remember that, you said this to me? And we don't remember. Sometimes we feel really agitated. Like, I should remember. Why don't I remember this? It's happened yesterday. And sometimes, because ego is so strong, your ego creates the feeling that I remember. That's why it's very easy to make you feel, if you can make an ego feel very vulnerable, the ego will find ways to make itself feel strong again. So if I asked you, do you remember, last time we had the sermon, we talked about how trees grow tall. It was such a very important sermon. It was, this is the journey for you to do Nibbána. And if I talked about its importance and made you feel that I should remember this, but I don't remember this, your own ego would start tricking itself, thinking, oh, I do remember it. Oh, I remember something about a tree. Just to make yourself feel what? I'm in control. I remember. So coming back to communication, the communication with teachers is the most important thing. Whenever you feel whatever you feel, you should be able to go to your teacher. Whenever you've done whatever you've done, you should be able to go to your teacher, because your teacher is always there to help. Your teacher is always there for you to take the next step. So I've had a conversation with my teacher the other day. And that is, different people are unique. We are all unique. Unique in the sense that we have different views, different experience. So I asked, what happens if I have a problem that you can't solve? How would you help me? If there's a problem, I'm facing a problem that no human has ever faced before, how would you solve such a problem? And he said it's quite simply, a teacher is only there for you, is only used as a stepping stone. A teacher can never solve your problems. A teacher can never solve your problems. You are your own teacher. But we have a teacher for us that can only be used as a stepping stone, a ladder. You hold on to the ladder to take your steps. Just because you have a ladder, that ladder doesn't mean you can climb high. You have a ladder, you have to use it. So a teacher is the ladder that you use. You can have, the world's tallest ladder, but if you don't take the step up, what is the point? So even if your teacher hasn't experienced exactly what you've experienced, it doesn't matter, because they are not your teacher, or they are not the one who's. They are your teacher. They aren't the one who's to solve your problem. Your problems can only be solved by yourself. This is why communication is important. This is why, the use of words are very important. This is why, your teacher should be someone who is very close to you. That's someone that you can trust, someone that you can share anything. If you do not have a teacher, you're trying to climb a tree, but you don't have a ladder. If you have a teacher and you don't use it, you have a ladder, but you don't want to climb the tree. This is why we have to see, how much am I using what I have? All of us, we literally live and breathe in the monastery. We have millions and millions of teachers, right? Of teachers and, lessons to be learned. The question is, do we learn those lessons? Do we use our teachers? Or do we hope that magically our teachers will solve our problems? That they'll, just me saying a problem, the teacher will solve it for me. Or do I use the teacher to solve my own problems? That's why communication is very important. That's why 99% of all problems come because of the lack of communication. Because you hope that, you think that the other person got the idea, got the message, when they haven't. This is why we have these doctrines in our monastery. For example, for our monks, and I know from our Angarikas, and then of course for our Sila Shravikas, we have these doctrines. Why do we have doctrines? Why do we have doctrines? Because if the teacher just teaches, then we don't need to worry, because we are all learning the same thing. Then why do we have doctrines? Because once the message is given, the teacher wants to check what? Whether you got the right message. Once the message is given, once the sermon is given, or once the nyaya is given, the doctrine is given, the teacher wants to check what? Did you understand? This is proper communication. You give, and you check if they got what they understood was right. If we didn't have a doctrine, what happens? The teacher gives and gives and gives and gives, and the learner, the student, will learn and learn and learn and learn. What are they learning? We don't know. Because what are words? What are words? Words are just empty boxes. Words are just empty boxes. Words don't have a meaning to it. Okay. What is the meaning of this word? Outside of your mind, what is the meaning of this word? Is there a meaning for this word? This is an empty box. You hear this word. You hear or you perceive this word. And your mind itself puts a meaning. Not only puts a meaning, and it tries to understand what is being said. That's why if I was to erase a bit, still you feel that is supposed to be what? Empty. You still feel it to be what? Empty. That it should be the word empty. I mean, words for anyone is just an empty box. According to what you know, you put into this word. This is very, you can see this very well when we use the word anicca. The word anicca is just, A-N-N-I-C-A in English. But the meaning, the feeling behind it, one person will feel one thing, another person will feel something completely different. According to what your understanding, this word gives a complete different meaning, but it's still the same thing. Well, if you think about this, right? What is this word? What is this word? M-T. That's still what? Same word, different spellings, and if you read it, you get the same feeling. Spelling's different. Well, technically, M-T. And technically, M-T. But the feeling that you get each time something's erased, it's a different feeling. Because a word is an empty box. A word is an empty box which you put the feeling in. So the other day, I got to talk with some children, and I asked them, do you know how to make a dal curry? Right? So I got them all to sit down, and I got one by one to tell me what they have to do. So one said, first of all, you have to get the dal and wash the dal and put it to a side. The second one says, put oil. The first one says, you don't put oil. You have to first boil the dal. But then she said, no, you have to put oil. The next one said, you have to put garlic. The second one says, you don't put garlic, you first have to put mustard seeds. So when I said, make a dal curry, every single person has a what? Different idea. So for example, if I asked you, what color is dal? What color should the dal curry be? Some of you say yellow, some of you say orange. Because the word dal curry is empty. But according to your views and your knowledge, you put in a curry. You put in a curry that you like. For example, so imagine someone eats like a dal curry with, say, carrots. For us, we will never think of a dal curry with a carrot, but for them they do. Because the word dal curry, the words that you're hearing, is empty. Or technically, you're not even hearing words, you're just hearing a sound. You're using that sound to make yourself feel something, using an empty box, filling it and feeling it. You take an empty box, you feel it, and then you take it. You fill it, and then you take it. That's what it is to communicate. That's what it is to communicate. You get an empty box, you fill it, you yourself fill it, and then you take it. And then you take it and you use it. But the other person is only giving what? An empty box. So how do I know what you are saying is, or what I'm saying, you are understanding it the exact same way? How do I know? I will never know. Because why? We can't read minds. What I say, the words I say, you take, feel, and then you use. But you yourself are the ones who are feeling this. This is why communication is important. This is why you have to know that it's just empty boxes I'm giving. So that's why you have to always check. Did the other person understand what I wanted them to understand, or the feeling that I had? If one day someone finds a way to make a machine that can read minds, now we don't need to check. All we do is we say something, we put them in the box, and we find out what they thought, and that's it, done. But if not, we have to make sure we know. We have to ask. See, communication may not be seen as one important part of, say, Nibbána. On our journey to Nibbána, it's not important. Is it not? How important are words? How important are words in our journey to Nibbána? How important are they? Extremely. Because without words, would you ever be able to understand what I'm saying? Without words, would you be able to, communicate your problems? This is why we have to learn communication as well. That's why whenever you give someone instructions, always ask the instructions back. Just so you realize, or they realize what they understood. This is why we have these nyayas. This is why you have discussions. This is why your teacher will ask you sometimes, tell me what you understand. For example, in our teachers' meetings, our teacher will say, okay, last sermon, tell me what you understood. Now, I will tell my teacher what I understood. My teacher will tell me what he understood. And then we look at both of these. Because, different people will focus on different things. You're not hearing what I'm telling you. You're hearing what you hear. For example, if I tell you a story, let's say, once upon a time, a person went shopping and they bought a cake. They went home, watched TV, end of story. Different people will point out different things. People who like shopping will be like, oh, they went shopping. People who like chocolate cake will focus on the what? Chocolate cake. People who like watching TV will focus on what? The TV. So even in one sermon, different people will focus on different things. Different people will understand different things. This is why it's so amazing whenever a sermon or whenever you listen or you contemplate about something, to go and talk about it with someone else. This is what? Dharma Sahakacha. Dhamma discussions. Because different people have understood different things, different aspects. And when they understand these different aspects, now you're understanding what they understood. They're understanding what you understood. Therefore, you're both helping each other to take a step forward. At that moment, they're your teacher, and you are their teacher. This is why, it's whenever you listen to a sermon, or whenever you go and you contemplate and you understood something, it's always best to come and tell someone. Because when you tell them, number one, they understand. Number one, when they hear it and they listen, they understood something from what you say, and they'll tell you what they understood. And both of you are helping each other take the next step forward. That's why words are very powerful. When a philosopher was asked, what is more dangerous, a sword or a pen? The philosopher said, the pen. Because swords can do harm, physical harm. But a pen and words can change an entire samsara. Can it not? Can it not? Aren't you evidence of that? A sword can hurt, can harm the physical body, but words can change a samsara. Words can turn friends into enemies, enemies into friends. Words can make people, can indoctrinate people with michya-ditthi, wrong views, or they can be given samma-ditthi, the right view. That can all be done by just words. This is why words are important. This is why communication is important. This is why you have to always be able to communicate. However, when ego is there, you always block yourself. Why? What happens if they think something bad of me? What happens if they think that, I don't know? See, sometimes you may find it hard to ask a question from, a fellow colleague, because you may think, ego may say, if I ask this question, will they think I don't understand? Instead, you rather have people ask you questions. Because when they ask you questions, you can give an answer, and then you feel what? Oh, I know. I know the answer. You see, when Guru Arahant talks about ego fits in everywhere. I don't know whether you were able to contemplate on ego. But ego fits everywhere. Every single mind, when it has ignorance, has ego. Ego, in other words, is jati. Same thing that we've been talking about, jati, the sense of self. And when the sense of self is there, it slips in everywhere. Ego is why we do so much. So the reason why we lack communication is because of ego. Now, number one is because of lack of knowledge, but also ego. This is why we have to learn how to communicate. We have to learn how to tell what we want and what we feel correctly. If not, people will think different things. You see, a word, for a mind to understand, a massive process is there. Because are you hearing the words from my mouth? Are you hearing the words from my mouth? What are you actually hearing? You're hearing your mind. You're not hearing the words of coming from my mouth. You're hearing your mind. According to your environment, according to your vipaka, every one of you is hearing something different. For example, right? Outside your mind, what is there? Outside your mind, what is there? We know if we are perceiving a sound, there must have been what? Well, first of all, there has to be something. Something has to vibrate. That goes through the ear to the brain to the mind, and the mind arises. A mind arises and it hears the word. But that's not it. Because that's just the first part of it. That is just the what? First part. It takes it the word empty arises here. This is not empty. There's no empty here. It comes only in here at this moment. When you have rupa, when you receive. Only here do you perceive, at vijnana, do you perceive the word empty. When I mean perceive the word, when I say empty, you don't just hear a sound. You have a sound plus a meaning. Sound plus meaning. Rupa, nama. Sound plus meaning. You don't just see, you don't just hear the word empty. You hear it and you feel it. You have a feeling. And all that becomes, and then you feel all that, and it vijnana. So outside, there is just something. So right now, outside your mind, what is there? Something. Are you hearing the word empty? Are you hearing the word empty? No. All that's happening is, technically, you see, I'm speaking, it goes to the mic, it goes through these wires, it goes through an amp and whatnot, and comes out the speaker. So are you hearing what I'm saying? Well, most likely you're hearing from the speaker. And the only thing the speaker is doing is sending a vibration. Through what? What is vibrating? Something. Now we call the something the four great elements, but we don't know what those are either. We've never seen the four great elements. We've never heard or smelled or tasted or touched the elements. All we know is there's something. And that something did something with your ear, went through the brain to the mind. The mind first receives it, finds what it means, and then feels it. That's why now if I wrote, you hear the word what? You still feel the word what? Empty. You don't need a P-E-Y anymore. An M and a T is now enough for you to think what? Empty. Now you're not going to forget this. Now you're not going to forget, I can get rid of a P to say empty. So outside your ears, all there is just something. So what are you hearing? You're hearing your mind. You are only hearing, you can only perceive this part, which is basically your mind. So each and every one of you, although hearing the same word, will feel what? Different. You'll feel different. Because why? Different minds. Because although the rupa, even the rupa, as it goes down this path, will be different. Your Vedana will be different. Sanya will be different. Sankhara will be different. Vijnana will be different. According to your nama rupa, nama gota, and your memories, your experience, even the place you are. At what place are you in the room? For example, if you're nearer the speaker, you'll hear maybe something different to if you were at the back. Because of the intensity. That's why, sometimes if you were to be right next to a speaker, sometimes you're not able to hear clearly. Because all you hear is da 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 da. However, when you go back, you get to hear sounds or voices or even music or whatever. So what you are hearing is what? Your mind. You are not hearing me speak. You are hearing what? You are hearing what? Your mind. You're not seeing me. What are you seeing? Your mind. So, if you think about this, when you talk with someone else, person A and person B are talking. What's really happening? See, if you really think about this, this is very strange. What's actually happening? In reality, what's actually happening? Person A is talking with his mind. Person B is what? Talking with his mind. But person A and person B are best friends. With? Person A and person B are best friends. With? Their minds. If you really think about this, when was the last time you talked with someone else? When was the last time you talked to someone else? How do you know you talked to someone? Every time you talk to them, they nodded and they think, oh yeah, I understand. Or they say, they look at you, they're looking at you, they're talking to you. This is how you know that they are listening to you. But all of that can only be perceived where? Now, this is not saying person A is talking with himself, with himself or herself, and person B is talking with himself or herself, because they are making sounds. Sound travels, right? Or something travels, and therefore gives rise to B mind. B mind again responds. However, they are talking to a mental image. Again, that's not saying there's nothing out here, because it's very easy to come to the point that, oh, there's nothing there. There is nothing in this world. I'm living in the matrix, right? We're all just plugged into a computer simulation. It's very easy to think that. There's nothing. There is no pen, there is no board, there's no mic, there's no table, there's nothing. What we have to remember is there is always something. There has to be something to trigger. Without a trigger, a mind cannot arise. Without a trigger, a mind cannot arise. But then it's very easy to say, well, if we are in a computer simulation, right, that the simulation is giving triggers. But there has to be something here to give rise to the mental image. So it's not that there is nothing, but there is something. What is that thing? We don't know. So it's really strange. If you think about this, the more you think about this, the more strange it becomes. See? Person A loves chocolate cake. Right? Loves chocolate cake. So what person A does is person A goes this is angled. It's angled because it's curved. The path is curved. Goes to the shop, comes back, and eats a chocolate cake. In reality, what happened? Person A, due to their ignorance, has the desire for chocolate cake, thinking that chocolate cake will satisfy the sense of self. Therefore, now, person A gets the idea, because what we have to remember is the idea to go to the shop is also what? Cause and effect. What you have to remember is every part of this process is cause and effect. So the idea of cake has to come from what? It has to come from something. Because of ignorance, when the memory of cake comes by, it creates this vexation. For example, this is when you have to see my amazing drawing. Let's see if I can do this. That looks like it, yeah. What is this? Because we've been talking about chocolate cake, this is now what? Chocolate cake. But for some people, if a random person comes in out of the blue, they'll look at this and say, this is probably cheese. Or this is, this is a butter cake. Or some people say, this is just a shape. Or this is a weird house. However, because we talked about chocolate cake and you see this, now the idea of chocolate cake comes. So the idea of chocolate cake is entirely vipaka. The idea of chocolate cake is entirely vipaka. According to causes, does the effect arise? However, when the thought when the thought arose with the idea of chocolate cake, what happens? Because of ignorance and attachment, what happens? Jati is there. Because of jati, now there's an idea that for ego to be happy, or for self to be happy, I must have what? Chocolate cake. Now vexation arises. Because of vexation, this causes the environment for the next mind to change. This causes the environment for the next mind to change. Therefore, the next vipaka is shop, or the idea to go to the shop. So this mind is now altering the next vipaka that comes by. If ignorance wasn't there, the idea of cake will arise and pass away, and the next idea will come. But because of ignorance and attachment, now the vexation of I must have chocolate cake is that vipaka. That vexation changes the environment for the next mind. Now the idea I must go to shop arises. When that arises, now person A is walking. Is person A actually walking? Is person A actually walking? Yes and no. Yes, because, something has to move. The way they are moving, we have identified to be walking. However, the feeling of walking is also what? It's also an idea of the mind. I am walking. So again, something is moving. Something is moving. Due to causes, something is moving. But the idea of walking is something that arises in A's mind. A goes to a shop, buys the cake. The feeling of buying a cake is also what? The mind. So did A actually buy a cake? No. A's mind believes that A bought a cake. Comes home and now A eats the cake. Is A actually eating cake? Or is A just eating its mind? Okay, when I mean eating its mind, the mind arises with the feeling of eating. But did A actually eat cake? Or did, just like A was just talking with its mind, A is just eating its mind. The thought arose that I am eating chocolate cake. Did A actually eat chocolate cake? The thought arose, I'm eating chocolate cake. When that thought arises, the vexation now decreases. Because the vexation decreases, what is A now feeling? Pleasure. Where did pleasure come from? So because A could do the same thing in a dream. Can't he? A falls asleep. A really wants to eat chocolate cake but falls asleep. In A's dream, A is now walking to a shop, buying a cake, coming back and eating it. While eating in the dream, A will feel what? What will he feel? Pleasure. But cake is not involved. Or something is not involved. It is just a feeling. Same thing here. The only difference is, behind the scene, something is happening. Something is happening, meaning the four great elements is changing. The causes are changing. Therefore, for example, movement is happening. Changes are happening. Like for example, for this person to move, certain proteins have to be moving. Certain molecules have to be breaking. Some molecules have to be forming. For A to move, So what's really happening is A, moving, or are, things happening. Things are happening. We call that, from a third person or from a third person view, we call it walking. But really what's happening? Something's happening. I mean, a better example would be different people walk differently. Different people walk differently. But we give the umbrella term of walk. For example, some people walk swinging their arms and legs. Some people walk with their heads down, with their arms glued to their side. Right? Some people will take larger strides. Some people take very small strides. Some people walk with their feet one after each other. Some people walk with one leg dragging after each other. Some people waddle, right? With their both feet angled. But we give it the term of walking. But in reality, what's happening? Something is happening, and we give it. We identify. Our mind identifies what? Walking. But in reality, it's the mind. The mind feels. So I don't want anyone to get the sense that, I'm not actually walking, or that walking isn't happening. No, something is happening, but the mind identifies it to be walking. Goes to a shop, buys, and the mind eats. The mind eats what? What does the mind eat? Or what does person A eat? Person A eats its mind. Person A believes it's eating a chocolate cake. Therefore, the relief of this vexation is there. Therefore, it feels pleasure. In reality, did person A actually eat cake? Pleasure is not in the object. The feeling of chocolate cake is not. The chocolate cake is not in the chocolate cake. The chocolate cake is the mind. But because of the relief, person A feels what? Oh, this cake from this shop is amazing. Give me a name of a cake shop. Fab. Okay. The cake from Fab are amazing. Now, what happens in that mind? Because of this pleasure, because of this feeling that, self-happy, it stores in the memory that, cake from Fab equals happiness, or equals happy jati, happy ego. Therefore, it knows next time the idea cake is there, where to get the cake? From Fab. This is an entirely beautiful process. I mean, if you're able to see, you are talking to your mind. You are listening to your mind. You are seeing your mind. You are smelling your mind. You're tasting your mind. Now you no longer deal with this. Now knowing that this is your mind, would you go out your way to get some of your mind? Will you go out your way to get some more mind? Or would you realize I am looking for a mind that isn't chocolate cake. So instead, let me get rid of ignorance. See, you no longer deal with, you no longer have, and you no longer care about, this. What is outside? Instead, now you're focused on one. Why do I still feel that this is chocolate, that I need chocolate cake? See, if you understand that, person A never ate cake in his life, if you can prove to person A that he's never eaten cake in his life, what can the only question be in person A's mind? Then why do I feel that I ate cake? Why do I feel that I ate cake? That's the only question that should be in his mind. If he really understands that I have never eaten cake, I have never eaten cake from Fab, then why do I feel that I have eaten cake from Fab? Now you have somewhere to attack. If you don't realize that, what happens is, I like cake. See, if you don't realize that you've never eaten cake before, what will happen very simply is, I have never eaten cake, but I like the mind. So I like the feeling of I eat cake. Therefore, it's not so. Eating cake is not bad. It gives rise to this pleasurable feeling. That pleasurable feeling can only come if you think that you've eaten cake. You know how sometimes you trick young children, right? You come and you trick them saying that eat this. I remember when I was very little. I remember I think it was some sort of medicine. My mom would say, if you take this medicine, you will become. Let's see if I remember. She said you will have superpowers. And so children would what? Will eat it, or drink it, or take it, in hopes that they are going to get this. But when they realize that that's not going to happen, what is that feeling towards that medicine? I don't want it. See, if you think this, if you were to think that this is chocolate cake, and every time you eat it, you become happy. If you realize that this isn't chocolate cake, would you still go after it? Would you still go after it knowing that this is not what you wanted? Now, even though chocolate cake makes you happy, when you realize that this isn't chocolate cake, and this isn't what makes you happy, now this has how much value does this have? This becomes worthless. Therefore, you think, you now, even though you get the idea that, chocolate cake is good, I want chocolate cake. Now because you understand that I have never eaten chocolate cake, and the happiness, the pleasure I get from the chocolate cake isn't from the cake. Now, do you go running after this? Would you go out your way to get more of this? No, now you think, why do I feel? Now the question is, why do I feel cake will make me happy? Not, where can I get cake? See, a mind is the most sneakiest thing ever. It is very sneaky. It will always try to find a way to get what it wants. Always will try to find a way to get what it wants. So if you give it, some space. So if you ever come and instead of thinking that cake, there's no, if you instead of attacking cake, if you think, oh no, cake is okay. Now, because the mind has vexation, the mind will do whatever it can to try to get cake. Or do whatever it can to try to get cake. Think about this. If person A was diabetic, has diabetes, if the person A still thinks that cake makes him happy, what will person A start doing? Start looking for sugarless cake, with artificial sweetness. Because if you don't realize that this is the problem, they feel that this is the problem. So they'll go to Fab and ask for what? Can I have a sugarless cake? That's why, that's why some foods you have, say for example, you've got normal Coca-Cola, then you have Diet Coke. Because I don't want to gain weight, or I want to feel healthy or something. Therefore, it looks outside thinking this is it. Instead of stopping, instead of not drinking, find a different solution. Some people who are vegetarians may not eat cake because of eggs. So what did they find? Eggless cake. Because they never thought that this was the problem. They thought that this is the problem. We have to do the same thing. Never is this the problem. The problem is always here. This idea that having this will give rise to a happy, or give rise to a pleasant jati. Give rise to a pleasant jati. If you get rid of that, now if you have the idea of cake, you will now no longer go looking in search of cake. But that doesn't mean you can't eat cake. If you consume cake, okay, that's fine by me. But you no longer have this idea. So coming back to this, something goes to your ego, and something happens. So when I mean something, we'll just say, for now, we'll say it's cause and effect. Because of cause and effect, the mind. So cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect to mind. Mind hears the word empty. Mind hears the word empty. And then perceives empty. Mind hears the word empty and perceives empty. So here's the thing. If someone decides to praise you, right? Very common in the monastery, right? Praise. Someone comes and praises you. They say, sir or madam, your work here is amazing. You've done this, you've done that. Right? Well done, this. Who's praising who? Who's praising who? Is anyone praising anyone? Or does a mind feel praised? A mind feels praised. So it's very common that once someone starts praising you, you automatically like the person. Why do you like the person? Because you think that praise comes from? But in reality, praise is where? You feel as though you're praised. Because of ignorance, you project and you say, oh, it's this person who gave me praise, so I like this person. Therefore, I want to associate this person more. See, if you look at it, teachers that praise their students more, their students are very close to their teachers. Not because the teacher is giving very valuable lessons, but more because the student likes praise. So, being closer to the things they like will give them more pleasure. That's the same thing the other way around as well. The teacher starts scolding. Why did you do this? You should have been here at this time. Why were you late? Right? Why were you late? We have a meditation program at 3 o'clock. Why did you come at 4? Right? And scolding. Scolding is also what? Who's scolding who? Who's scolding who? The mind feels the mind scolds. The mind feels that a mind is scolding them. So your own mind is scolding yourself. And you get upset with who? With the other person. Why? Because the scolding comes from when the scolding is your own mind. The scolding is your own mind. Scolding doesn't come from anywhere but yourself. Because where? The word empty, or the word, let's take the word The word bad comes from here. No one's ever called you bad. No one's ever called you, no one's ever told you off. All the telling off comes from where? Yourself. Technically, the reason why you feel that scold is because yourself feels what? The jati feels what? Hurt. Jati feels what? Hurt. Do you remember sometimes when you're at school, there's a teacher that scolds you, but you enjoy being scolded by that teacher? Ever happened? There's a teacher that's scolding you, right, telling you off, but you enjoy being scolded by the teacher. A very good example is if you ever been like something that I won't say enjoy, but I find I remember I used to love is I had a teacher who would scold non-stop. But I used to like it. Even though they say, oh, what are you doing? Well, you're wasting time, da-da-da-da-da. I would enjoy it. So I would do things to get told off. Because he had a very funny accent as well. That's beside the point. So in that way, scolding, a scolding coming from a person isn't a scold anymore. Even though in their minds they feel as though they are scolding, in the other mind, it isn't a scold. Because scolding is also what? Mind. It's a mind. The feeling of being scolded or the feeling of scolding is what? A mind. This is why, especially in the monastery, it's really weird. Sometimes, your teacher will tell you off for something. But the next moment, it almost feels as though they're a completely different person. So they'll be like, they'll tell you, oh, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Next moment, oh, did you have dane? Or why, you were late for this, you were late for that, you do this. Oh, but I heard that you did this. Sometimes it's very strange because you think, because you feel what? Because of jati, you feel that, oh, teacher, angry teacher now. But next moment, happy teacher. That can't be fixed, ne? Because it's fixed. Because it's fixed, how can a person go from sad to happy instantly? But we have to remember that, being the feeling of being scolded, the feeling of being praised is all just what? It's just the mind. So when we started, I said, can you read minds? The question is, can you read your own mind? We have to be really aware of this. We have to really think about this. The more you think about this, the more life becomes, the more ignorance decreases. The more ignorance decreases, the less you feel these feelings. Now a person is scolding you. You hear. A person is praising you. You hear. That's why, the great Arahant Sariputta would say, I'm like a carpet. Right? People come and, they'll wipe their feet on me. A person may take me and, clean me and, wash me and whatnot. But I see them all the same. I see them all the same. Because for an Arahant, whether you're being praised, whether you're being scolded, they don't feel that they're being scolded, they're being praised. They hear what? The mind will rise. Don't do this. They will hear it. But they won't be sad because they don't feel that they're being scolded. Knowledge-wise, they know that the other person is probably angry. They're very cross, they're saying it in very loud ways, so they know they're angry. But that doesn't affect them. That sort of mindset is sometimes really, it's a very, very calm mindset. The mindset of an Arahant. Because no matter whatever happens, okay, someone throws a rock, hits you on the head. What does the Arhat feel? A mind arose with pain because of a rock. right? Because an Arahant isn't, they know, they understand, they are humans. But they don't feel what? This person threw the rock at me to hurt me. Right? They threw this rock to hurt me. Right? I must retaliate. And they will never pick up the rock and throw it back. Because there's no need. Because they realize a mind arose, the mind passed away. Great. A mind arose, the mind passed away. Great. But because of our ignorance and attachment, what happens is we feel that someone threw a rock at me. I am hurt. I must retaliate. I must say something, do something. At least tell the teacher or whatnot. Think about this. The great Arahant, Angulimal, after he became an Arahant, people will throw rocks. Right? People will throw rocks. Even if someone was to throw a rock at an animal, it will ricochet off walls and off trees and hit him. Physically, he was in pain, but mentally, he's as free as a bird. No, technically, freer than a bird. See, this is the mindset of an Arahant. This is the mindset of an Arahant. This is the mindset that we should all have. It's a mindset that we have to all strive by. They say, the more you. So there are two things we have to do. Number one, try to understand where our goal is, and find out what we need to do to achieve it. This is why it's always really good to try to see the life or try to imagine the mindset of an Arahant. We may not be able to, but trying to do that, what happens is you start to define a goal. So because we know that an Arahant is someone that doesn't have raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion, delusion. We know that that an Arahant doesn't have these. So we have a goal. And now we know how to get to that. This is why, Guru Hamdra would always say, our teachers will always say, take some time to think about, what Nibbána is. Nibbána. What is Nibbána? What is so good about it? Because the more you think about it, the more stronger because our minds are cause and effect. Our minds are cause and effect. It will only go to things that it knows that to be more valuable. So if it thinks of Nibbána to be valuable, now what? It will work. It will work its way to attain Nibbána. Because the mind will do whatever it thinks will give it the most pleasure. So for children, growing up, you tell your children, Puta, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become these sort of jobs because this will make you happy. But if the child thinks, instead of becoming a doctor, playing games will make me happy, will the child work hard? No, the child will now try to play games. Will look for any loophole that parents give to find a way to play. But if they saw the value of what? Of becoming, of getting a job in the future, now they work hard for that. Same thing here. If you realize the value of the value of becoming an Arahant, now when you do something, you now do everything for that. But if you think, Nibbána is one thing, but I also want this. If you have two agendas, Nibbána and also something else, now you can't get there. This is why Nibbána has to be your number one goal. This is why, our slogan, only for aspirants of Nibbána, because Nibbána should be the only goal. Everything else is secondary. Everything else is helping that. In our monastery, we have so many, things to do. Right? So many meritorious activities. Like, currently we have so many projects going on and all these sort of things. But it's very easy to get lost in merits. Very easy. Lost in just, in doing merits. But we have to remember is number one is Nibbána. So why am I doing these merits? For Nibbána. Why am I sweeping the Dhamma hall? For Nibbána. Because Nibbána should be number one. Everything else should be there to help this. Because it's very easy to get lost in merits. Very easy. Because when you do more merits, you feel, it makes you feel really elevated. No, I got to do this, I did all these sort of merits. And it makes you feel really good. Because remember, we are, a human mind. Well, it's a mind that likes good. All minds like good. All human minds like good. Because why? We're in a Sugati plane. We're in a Sugati plane. Therefore, every mind likes good. Very, a mind is very quick to attach itself onto good. Very quick. That's why normally we all like and love good people. Very rarely do you find people attaching themselves onto people who are doing harm or bad. But if they do attach themselves, they hope that they become good one day. Because we are humans, and humans are in a Sugati plane. This is a plane where we need lots of merits. But what we have to realize is we are doing merits for Nibbána. We're doing these merits for Nibbána. We're helping for Nibbána. We're doing all this for what? Nibbána. If you lose focus, then Nibbána will not happen. Nibbána will not happen, I can guarantee it, if you lose focus. It should be your number one aim. Number uno. It should be your number one aim to attain Nibbána. So everything you do, see, we have so many chances. We have so many chances to do so much. We get to help one another. In the monastery, this is why I if anyone asks me what is life like in the monastery, I'd say imagine heaven and plus one. Right? Imagine heaven and then some. That's what life like is in the monastery. Because everyone is there to help each other. Everyone is there to push each other to become better. That is our main purpose. Right? We are very fortunate to have so many opportunities to help one another. This is why Guru Arahant will always say, our failed products will end up in the heavens. Our failed products. Other products? Where are they? Because we do so much merits. So whenever you do a merit, of course, give it your 100%. 101%. Give it your maximum. Whenever you do a merit, don't think. It's a very common thing to think about yourself. Right? So if I'm giving something, it's very common to think, what will I get from this? What am I going to gain from this? Will they help me back? Ego is always at play. If you do a merit feeding your ego, remember that merit that you're doing is, the power of that merit is so low. You're not getting the maximum because ego is there. Ego is always hoping for a place. But if you can do a merit regardless of ego, that's when you get the maximum. Because ego will find its ways to put its roots into everything. Find its way to grow using anything. Ego can use this to fuel ego. Why? I had something like this at home or whatever, and it can use whatever it wants to increase its ego, increase the feeling of ego. However, by having that, what you're doing is you're reducing the amount of merits that you can accumulate. That's why the further you go, this is very strange, right? The further you go on the path to Nibbána, the more merits you do, until you become an Arahant, which becomes zero. It's like what do you call this? Exponential graphs. It's like an exponential graph. It goes until it goes to infinity, and after infinity, the line is no more. So, for those who don't know what an exponential graph is, so if this is time, this is merits. The amount of merits that you do as you are progressing on your path to Nibbána will increase. Because why? Now, the more you understand about ego, the less ego you have while you do something. So you're now doing so much with less ego, therefore merit increases. But as time goes, it comes to a point where merit is very high. But then, after a certain moment, how much merit is that? Where's the line now? Zero. That's why when you become an Arahant, there you don't accumulate merit, but the more you are able to do your merits with less ego, the more merits you accumulate. The more merits you accumulate. So don't let ego creep in. Don't let ego creep in. Whenever ego creeps in, give it the best shot you possibly can. Use the Dhamma to eradicate it. Use the Dhamma to eradicate it. So whenever you do something, if you feel, oh, I'm doing this and I'm such a great person, use ego to understand, what is this I? Who's doing what? Get rid of it. Because if you feel that, oh, I'm such a great person, now you're no longer thinking about the merit. You're thinking about, oh, how good I am. Oh, I did this, I did that. You know how sometimes some people will give a gift to someone and hope they use it? You give someone, you give a t-shirt to someone. You hope they wear it. If they don't wear it, you're upset. Same thing. You do a merit and you're doing it and hope that it makes you feel good. So are you really giving the gift? Or are you holding some back? That's why ego, the more we talk about ego, the more you realize, it takes root in everything. We have to, every time ego, peaks somewhere, use the Dhamma to get rid of it. Don't let it peak. But remember, ego is in every mind. Every mind you have, ego is there. But whenever you feel that it's coming up, it's like those games. What is it called? Have you seen the game called it's called Whack-A-Mole? Right, where a mole comes out of a hole and you take a hammer to hit them on the head. You've probably seen them in arcades or whatnot. There's like holes everywhere. And out of this hole, an animal comes up, a mole comes up. You take a hammer and you hit on the head. This is the same thing that we have to do with ego. Every time you see ego, start to make an appearance, you take the hammer of Dhamma and you hit it on the head. So it sinks back down. Again, another mind, and ego will start to come up. You take the hammer of Dhamma and you hit it. Because if you don't hit it, if the mole comes out of the hole, your massive garden of merits will be ruined. Your garden of merits, the merits that you've done, the massive field of crops that you've grown, you won't be able to reap its fruits because the mole has taken it. The mole has ruined it. So when it comes up, you take the hammer and you hit it. So it doesn't come up, it can never come up again. Use the Dhamma whenever you feel the sense of, oh, I did something. I am a good person. Take the hammer and hit it. Ask yourself, why do I feel that? Why do I feel that, I did this? What is actually happening here? Look at the cause and effects nature. So just like we did with person A, going to the shop, buying cake, and coming back. Look at yourself through the lens of the Dhamma. See it in real life. See it happen in real life. Why am I feeling this eye? What did I do? I swept the Dhamma hall all by myself. Did I? Ask yourself, did I? What really happened? Show yourself that what really happened is I did what? Nothing. The mind arose with the idea, and sweeping happened. The mind, what did the mind do? The mind what did Jati actually do? The Jati just took ownership, saying, oh, I did that. So sweeping is happening. Jati says, oh, I did that. Sweeping is happening. Jati says, oh, I did that as well. Claiming something that's happening. Sweeping happens. An idea arose, and after that, the next minds will arise to get that idea done. It took me 3 hours to sweep the entire Dhamma hall. Let's say. It shouldn't take you that long, but let's say it did. You have to ask yourself, why? Why do I feel that I did this for 3 hours? Really, what happened? No, I only swept for one mind. That mind arose, passed away, next mind. Because if you see yourself doing it one mind at a time, if you see yourself do it one mind, or if you understand it's only one mind at a time, you can never be tired mentally. You can never be tired mentally. Imagine 3 hours sweeping the Dhamma hall. How tired must I be? Mentally, you won't be tired. Because why? One mind at a time. So if they said, can you re-sweep everything again? Another 3 hours. Without hesitation, you can do it. Physically, of course, you'll be tired. Physically, according to how much energy and all this, all how much energy you're using and how much energy you have left and whatnot will determine how physically tired you are. But mentally, you can never be tired. You'll see this, where when you do a meritorious activity that is physically tiring, try to see whether it's just physical or are you mentally tired as well. Because physically, your body will be tired, but mentally you can be tired as well. You feel mental tiredness because of what? Because of jati. But physical tiredness is there, right? Because physical tiredness is out here, but mental tiredness is in the mind. For the last for the last 30 minutes, I was planting this coconut tree, or this coconut plant. It's very hard work. Well, physically you could be tired, but mentally you should be able to understand that, okay, did I actually plant a tree, or did that happen? See, the more you understand, the more open you are to do more things. Like for example, now we have Vesak coming up. Vesak's on Monday. So when you have this, so we have, I think, planned a massive Buddha puja, and a massive Buddha puja and processions and all this amazing stuff. You have to ask yourself, am I doing this? Am I holding the Buddha puja and am I walking down? Or what is actually happening? Because it's very easy to think, oh look, I've made the best dana for the Lord Buddha, and with immense pride you can walk down the aisle, walk down the path, right? And place in front of the Buddha and imagine, like, Buddha, I've made the best dana for you, and then worship. You should, but that's hindering the amount of merits you can accumulate. Instead, you should be thinking, as you're walking down this path, right? As you're walking down the path, you should be asking yourself, what is actually happening? Because remember, this is a time for you to contemplate. See, the Buddha puja, of course, it's an offering. But you shouldn't just be offering, the alms that you've made. You should also be offering what? In front of the Buddha, you should also be offering your defilements. You should be able to, place the plate or place the I think everyone's given a small cup. So a small cup of the alms you prepared. And beside that, you should also be able to place your defilements. And say, I'm offering this dana, but I'm also offering my defilements. These are the defilements that I have got rid of. So you should be offering two things on the table. One thing physically you can see, the other thing we can't see. Physically, you will be offering your defilements, saying, I'm offering my defilements. The defilements that kept me bound to samsara, I'm offering. So you should be, while you're going down this path, you should be thinking, contemplating, why do I feel what I feel? So, it's very funny to think about this, because, when, let's say you're going down the path with the alms bowl, and our amazing IT team and our camera team comes with their cameras and they're recording this, right? When the camera is pointing at you, think about, like, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? Some people feel immense pride, thinking, oh, look, everyone is looking at me. Other people are shying away, thinking, oh no, everyone's looking at me. Are people looking at you? Are they actually looking at you? Or are they looking at their own minds? When the camera is right in your face and they're recording this, see what you feel. Or every now and then you look up to check on the TV, have they taken my recording yet? Right? I mean, it's a very common occurrence, right? An ego wants to feel itself being there. Ego wants to feel that, oh, I'm here. I'm over here. So if that is so, ask yourself, think, am I feeling what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Let's say the worst happens. You're walking down and you trip over and the cup falls onto the floor. Right? Normally people will, be so heartbroken. I dropped the dana that I've made, right? I don't have enough merits to offer this to the Lord Buddha. Why do you feel that? Because remember, the Lord Buddha isn't waiting for you to offer something, right? The Lord Buddha isn't sitting there thinking, well, where is your dish? Where is it? You dropped it. How could you? The Buddha's not going to do that. You feel upset because you think that I wasn't able to offer this. But what should you realize? That what has happened His causes came together to give rise to an effect. Then the Buddha will come and say, well, like, we'll start to appreciate you because you've given what he wanted you to give. Whether you give alms or not, it doesn't matter. You've given what his last dying wish was what? Apamadena sampadena. His dying wish was to fulfill your path. Right? His last words was to fulfill your path, to practice heedfully. So if you're offering, regardless of what you offer, if you're offering your defilements, you are actually giving what he wanted. You're actually giving what he wanted. So this is the thing, whenever you do some sort of merit, take it as a chance. Right? Whenever the mole comes up, take the hammer and hit it as hard as you possibly can. Because if it comes up, your field of merit is ruined. Your field of merit is ruined. So don't let the mole come up. Whack the mole. Whack the mole as hard as you can. Don't let ego come up. So whenever you do whatever merit you possibly you do it to the maximum you possibly can, with the idea of Nibbána in your head. Because remember, the Buddha didn't ask his disciples to bring him food. He went to begging for food. He didn't ask people for food. So what we're doing, we're not doing what he wanted. We're doing extra for our merits. So we can do what? Contemplate on the Dhamma. So we can contemplate and get to the point that he wanted us to be. So practice. And take this opportunity. So on Monday we have Vesak. I think everyone should have been given a cup, a small cup to put the puja. So whenever you're preparing it, whenever you're carrying it to the monastery, whatever you do it with the idea of what is really happening. Like let's say you're cutting something. Ask yourself, what's actually happening? Am I cutting? Am I cutting? If you're cooking, right? If you're boiling something, am I boiling? Am I making this food? When you're bringing it, when you're walking down the path to offer to the Buddha, ask yourself, what is actually happening here? And finally, at that table, you can offer two things. Number one will be the alms that you prepared. Number two, it will be your defilements. See if you can do that. See if you can offer your defilements at the table of the Lord Buddha. So Vesak, we have Vesak coming up, and on Monday, and it's going to be a big ceremony. For those of you who are online, if you can come and make it, of course, it'll be amazing. But if you can't, I think we're streaming it online, so they can join online with us. So if some of you are unable to participate, all of you are going to participate regardless. But if you're not able to, it'll be streamed online. And if you're at home, you can still do the same Buddha Puja with us. So no matter where you are in the world, we have it streamed, and therefore you can join us. Because Vesak is a very special time. A very special time. And you'll see that you'll see the amount of time and effort that our anagarikas, our monks, shravikas, and everyone in the monastery has done. Right? Decorating, preparing, and all this amazing stuff. So it is definitely a ceremony to watch. Right? It's dakineyo, but like better, right? Because it is the birth, the enlightenment, and the passing away of the Lord Buddha, which is very special. And hopefully, just like the Buddha was enlightened, maybe on that day after listening to Guru Arahant sermon, maybe we will also be able to do the same. Who knows? It's always special things always happen on special days. Now the question is, what day is a special day? Good question. Every day is a special day, but special things happen on special days. Right? So please, if you are unable to attend, come to the live stream and watch it and accumulate as much merits as you possibly can. Because even though we talk about, more than merits we have to contemplate, merits are essential. Without merits, none of this will be happening. None of this will happen. The more merit we have, the environment around us will change. That's why, if you don't like your teachers, do more merits. Because either the teacher will be the correct teacher for you, or the teacher themselves will change. To accommodate your merits. Because if your merit power is so strong, who knows? The universe will change to accommodate your merits. So that's why merits is very important. If you are reluctant to do merits, that's why, even though you may feel, you may feel ego come up. If you're not doing merits, none of this is important. None of this is important if you're not doing merits. Because these can only be understood, only be used by very meritorious people. That's why I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to, very meritorious people. People who sacrifice their entire lives to help another person. This is why, this is for you. But there may be people online who don't do the same. That's why. All of this is only useful for those of you who do immense amount of merits. The people who don't, well, this is technically useless. And not to forget, last week we had an ordination ceremony. And we have new monks with us. And like last time, we have ordination ceremonies very often. And currently, my name recalling power has reduced substantially. I am finding it very hard to remember names, because we have how many now? We have over 200, if I'm correct, 200 monks. Almost, maybe. But also, while the ordination ceremonies were going on, we also had some high ordination ceremonies as well. Therefore, we actually have more than 100 high ordained monks as well, which is one of the most special things. As part of the Buddhist asana is, as a part of the Buddhist asana, high ordained monks are very important, right? And therefore, having 100 of them is amazing. So we've had several high ordination ceremonies. Still have some more coming up as well as we had an ordination ceremony. This is the thing. Nibbána, if it's Nibbána you want, if you are following your teachers, you're doing what your teacher says, you will get it. It is a guarantee. Everyone here is doing one another, is helping each other to get to Nibbána. So if it's Nibbána you want, you're doing the right thing if you follow your teachers. Right? If you're here and you're following your teachers, you're doing the right thing. Because Nibbána is evidently there. Right? And we have so many people doing so much. So think about 100 or more than 100. I think by the end of this year, I think we will have more than we have 200 monks and over, I think, 120 something high ordained monks, which is, in the eyes of the sasana, is amazing, right? And not to forget our ever-growing anagarikas as well, like ever-growing. Yeah, you look one day, there's like so many, and then you look the next day, and they've multiplied. And again, Sila Shravika Shravikas, and we've got several people coming in. It is, the monastery is basically a massive family. Whether you know it or not, it is a massive family. Everyone, although it may not be blood related, are related. A massive family. So welcome to the family. All right. Let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude today's sermon. Let's take a few moments to transfer the merits we've acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirit, listening Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits of the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down to the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dhamma. So we'll take a moment to transfer the merits we've acquired to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all the chief prelates of the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and committed themselves to betterment of all sentient beings. Not forget, among them will be the monks and nuns resident in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side, through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer the merits to Guru Sanansi, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's also take a moment to transfer the merits and express our gratitude to those who make great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be that by translating sermons, share them out others, inviting others to join them. May the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the willful planes, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer our merits that we've acquired to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicines, as well as those who pass on the know how and their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any shape or form. By the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical or mental ailments and overcome any obstacles in spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to Devas, Brahmins, spirits, demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as numerous Gautam deities who committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha Sasana. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our garden deities who keep a watchful eye of us, keep us out of harm's way. May the power of the merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all that has been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara, to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any shape or form. Let's take a moment to transfer these merits. Let's also take a moment to transfer these merits to the members of the armed forces, as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost life in the war, be their friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we acquired today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their life in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in this long journey in samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer their merits to them. May the power of the merits, if any have been born in the willful planes, may they redeem themselves and born in the blissful plane. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, let's all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits we've acquired the other day. We've been witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of attain nuances, Arahant nuances on this blessed land. And finally, may through all the power of the merits we've acquired today, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become an attain nuance or Arahant nuance in this very life, in the era of the Gautam and Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now translate the blessings to you. Raga ginnen midetva, dvesha ginnen midetva, moha ginnen midetva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin, Sukita taravetva, Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukita taravetnva. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo. Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayin sukita taravetnva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sapa labeva, nivan sapa labeva. Nivan sapa labeva. තුන්වන්ගේ සූසියනන්ත මහා ගුණ බලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්‍යෝම නිබ්බාන පමසකෙන් සුඛතර වෙත්වා.